Hi there, this is Jillian. Welcome to DC Weddings with Jillian once again. And again, today we have Kayla McCoy of Transform Events. Now, if you are the bride that is not looking for that luxury wedding, that you're on a budget and you're willing to take on some of those DIY projects, like finding your vendors yourself and those things that you would do in the first year and a half before as you're planning your wedding. But you just need someone to literally take you down the aisle, to finalize all your last minute planning and to give you a stress free last 2 months before your wedding. Then I have a treat for you in Kayla. Stay tuned. Hello there, good evening, and welcome again to DC Weddings with Jillian. And today we have with us of Transformed Events. Welcome, Kayla.
Hello.
Well, it is so great to have you join us. I want to first to ask you about that name, Transformed Events, because you are a brand new wedding planner in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, and you are transforming events. So tell me what you're doing for your clients.
Yeah, so really, the first thing, let me tell you about kind of what Transformed Events is. So I started Transformed Events when I was planning my own wedding 2 years ago. And the reason that I started it is because I am younger. And so I was on a budget. I didn't have a ton of money. My husband didn't have a ton of money to spend on a wedding. And I realized that there was a gap in the market of, there was these big luxury weddings, which are beautiful, but that the average person didn't have a resource to go to for planning their wedding. And so that's why I started Transformed Events, because I'm all about helping people save money, but still have, the day of their dream, and still be able to have that point person on site. And so my primary service is, wedding coordination, aka day of coordination, but I do planning as well. But really, that's the whole goal of my business, right? Is just to be a resource to people planning their weddings who are maybe trying to save money, who are maybe on a tight budget, and they need to know really how to stretch their money. And so, in terms of my name, so I am a Christian, and my faith is something that's really important to me. So I wanted a name that had biblical significance. So the name comes from Romans 12:2, which basically just says, do not be transformed to the patterns of this world. I mean, do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so that was something that just stuck out to me about that verse. And I thought that's the same kind of thing that I want to do in this industry, is just transform people's minds and about the way that they think about what their wedding could look like or the things that they could do on their budget. So that's why I chose that name.
Fantastic. So the biblical significance is there, and I do know that passage myself. Yet, when the average person hears it, they're like, I want my event transformed. It
Right.
does have that ring to it that says that's what I want as well. So
Right.
tell me, you said a lot about concerning how brides on a budget that didn't necessarily want the luxury wedding or maybe couldn't afford yet the luxury wedding. So give us some examples of how you do that for your client.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am someone who really loves like diving deep into logistics and complicated issues that we're needing to find a solution for. So a great example actually is an event that I just had maybe 3 weeks ago, I want to say. And the problem was that they couldn't afford the high price tag of on-site catering, and so they decided that they wanted to do drop catering. And so in the weeks leading up to the event, I really work with them to kind of get all their friends and family members that were helping out organize, telling person A, you're going to be doing this, person B, you're going to be doing that, and really just trying to make it as seamless as a process as possible, because being a caterer, that you guys do a lot, right? And I don't want to take on that responsibility myself. And also, I think people don't realize oftentimes when they're volunteering their friends and families to do things for the wedding, how much work that actually is, especially as it pertains to something like catering, which is not just setting up the food and having people eat. It's inclusive of cleaning up the trash and who's going to be taking that out to the dumpster. Maybe they don't even have a dumpster on site that you can throw garbage in. So who's going to be taking that home with them? And then you have to think about plates and cups and forks and napkins and all these little things that couples don't really think about when they're looking at, oh, I just, can't afford a caterer, so I'm just going to do drop catering, when there's actually so much more that goes into that. So that's just an example of a few weeks ago where I really had to work with them and kind of line out all the steps and really help them see the bigger picture and how this could work, and really make a plan for how that was going to transpire out smoothly versus, just letting anything happen on the day of.
Right. And so, were you able to get the family members to cooperate, and were you able to really manage them to get all the tasks done that have to be done? How did
Yes.
it turn out for you?
Yeah, it went actually really well, which I was a little bit nervous about. We all have those events that, the logistics are not quite panning out the way that you think they are during the planning phases. But it ended up working out really well. And actually, too, this is a good conversation for that was also an event that I had to set boundaries in, because there were certain family members that were supposed to be doing certain things that they didn't fulfill those responsibilities because they were, worried about being a guest. They wanted to enjoy their time as well. And so the mother of the bride actually came up to me and was asking me if I was going to be taking out the trash. And I had to say, no, that's not a part of our responsibilities. Unfortunately, I can't do that. And we had to go find someone else that could fulfill that role, because that family member backed out at the last minute.
Interesting. These are all the fun times we have in the background of an event. And so I see you specialize in DIY brides. And so again, help the DIY bride that's listening, or the bride that's listening, to decide whether they should go and be a DIY bride, or that they need the help of a professional. What would you tell that bride?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question, actually, because that's what I have to do a lot during my consultations, during the initial kind of planning phases, after someone decides that they want to work with me. And really, this comes into play with centerpieces a lot, and just decor in general, because, at the onset of planning, you have all these sort of ideas and you think, oh, I want to do this. I saw this on Pinterest. I saw this on Facebook. Someone else did this on Instagram. And this looks so beautiful, but they don't think about in their mind how much is actually involved in that, not just getting the materials and putting it together, but the time, right? Who's going to be setting it up? Who's going to be breaking it down? Is it just going to stay in your house forever after the event? Or are you going to sell it? Are you going to try to repurpose it? All those little things. And so sometimes in my role, I do have to, tell people that maybe DIY isn't the best route for them. And maybe, you want to go with a full decorator, or maybe, you want to do something a little bit simpler because it seems like you don't really have a lot of time. And so really just having those conversations, it comes down to helping them, like I said before, see the bigger picture and outlining all the steps, and helping them understand what that looks like, so that they can decide for themselves if that's something they want to commit to, or that they can commit to. Because it's not always about the money, right? DIY, there's a lot that goes into it. And sometimes just paying more is worth not having the headache of doing things yourself.
Yes. And also what we find with the DIY bride is they recognize that too late in the game, because
Yep.
now they haven't hired somebody, they've been trying to do it, and when they realize, oh, I need help, all the good
Yeah.
people are unavailable. And so
I've had a fair amount of last minute bookings this year, for sure. Actually, my shortest one, someone asked me a week out away from their wedding if I could step in and help, and fortunately I was available, and so I took it on. But it was a challenge for sure. But that's exactly what I set out to do in this industry, and so I was just so happy that they found me, and that they even felt comfortable enough reaching out to me, and that I felt comfortable enough saying, what, this is what I really want to do in this industry. I wanted to take on this person. It's only a week, and it's going to be a tough week for me and for them, but we can do this together and we can get through it.
fantastic. Now talk to that bride, that groom that have waited too long to realize they need help, and what that could look like for them, what that could look like with your service to them.
Yeah, for sure. So I would definitely say to try to prevent that in the first place is reach out to people early on. And even if you think that you can't afford their services, or even if you, think that you don't need their services, it's always nice to just go in a couple consultations, talk to people, kind of see what their services offer, kind of see, help them break down for you, like what you need, what it sounds like you're struggling in. I know that's a question that I ask to my couples all the time is like, what are different areas that you're struggling in, to try to understand kind of the pain points in their process and figure out which exactly one of my packages would benefit them the most, whether that is they have it all together and they need a lower service, or they, think they have it more together than they do and they need a little bit more support, right? And so I would say definitely reach out early. But if you do unfortunately get to that last minute place where you just need help and you don't realize it, then still reach out anyway, because chances are that people are available. I know I was happy to, get that last minute booking because it was a date that I didn't have booked and it was more money in my pockets, right? So even if I had to, put in a little extra long hours that week, it was worth it to me. And so you never know if someone's available. You never know what they can or cannot help you with. And you also never know who's in their network, right? So maybe if I wasn't available, I had, three other planner friends in my network that were available and they would have been happy to take the date, and anything of that sort. So really just don't underestimate and don't count people out just because you think you can't afford them or because you think that you don't need their services.
Fantastic. That's great advice for the listeners. So tell me, how do you help our couples manage their expectation? Because obviously, if you don't have a budget, you may not be able to get all of the things that you might have dreamt or thought about, or you may have to just revise your expectations for your day.
Absolutely.
Do you help couples with that, and what does that look like for you at Transform Events?
Yes, I have to do a lot of managing expectations because there's a lot of people that their budget is not as high as they think, and that they think their money is going to stretch more than it actually realistically does, because we know, the prices of everything in this industry, and how, even 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, even getting up to 50 now, like doesn't really go that long of a way as everyone thinks that it, should realistically. And so it's a lot of having hard conversations with people, having those, difficult conversations where I have to tell someone you might not be able to afford this, or if you do want to afford this, then you need to deprioritize something else, and that money needs to go to something that you really want. And so something that I do with my couples that is super duper helpful for both me and them is to, at the onset of when they hire me, I ask them what are their top 3 priorities for this event. And those really just help us all keep grounded during the planning process. And so as things start to arise where they're like, oh, I want to spend money on this, or this just came up and this is really important to me. Well, we know that everything can't be important, right? And so you have to I have to find myself constantly going back to that list of priorities and constantly reminding them of that list of priorities and say, listen, we prioritize maybe, good food, great music, and a nice dress for the bride, right? And so if those are our top 3 priorities, and you want to start, adding on more entertainment, or you want to start adding on late night snacks, those are things that we want to prioritize because that they're in that guest experience list of priorities that they really cared about. But if there's things like you want to, add more florals or have bigger centerpieces or more candles on your tables, those are some things that might have to get deprioritized because they don't really contribute to those top 3 priorities that we established at the beginning of this planning. And so just constantly going back to what are the most important things about this event in your eyes. And if something, that is not quite in the budget, is trying to impede on that, then, having those tough conversations and saying, this is not a priority. And if you want to make it one, then we're going to have to reevaluate where this money is being allocated from somewhere else.
So what I hear very clearly here is something that I know, but that I would love our couples to hear. This is not just about getting you down the aisle and what side does your bride stand on, groom stand on, what time dinner starts. It starts way before, with a lot more issues, with a lot more things to talk through than you could possibly imagine.
Yes.
Now, you and I in the industry understand that, right? And we find that possibly our clients don't come to us understanding that. So we have to educate them and let them see, because it's almost begins to be self-serving when you start to share all the things you have to accomplish on their behalf when they don't see the value in it. So how do you ascribe value to what you bring to your clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. And something that I really like to emphasize during, my consultations and my marketing, kind of in that initial phases when they're not actually my client yet, and I'm still trying to kind of get them to be my client and prompting them to take that next step, is the stress that people feel on their wedding day when they don't have that point person that they can go to. And that could be, the biggest thing or the smallest thing. And in terms of small things, right, it's like, do you have a safety pin? Do you have a band-aid? Someone that just has random stuff that people don't think that will happen on their wedding. But truth is that I give out at least 2 band-aids every single wedding without fail. And so little things like that you would never think about just as a normal, bride or groom planning your wedding, because you don't have to think about that on a regular basis, right? But that's what I'm here for, to think about the things that you don't have to think about. And so that's really what I emphasize, is that you want to be able to enjoy your wedding day. You want to be able to laugh with your guests, take photos, eat great food, have a good time, and not have to worry about, does someone need a band-aid? Or, in worse situations, right, not worry about, oh, the cake is running late, what are we going to do if it's not here in time? Or the DJ got sick and someone else is on the way filling in. We have to get this new person up to speed. Those big things and those small things. Is that something you don't want to have to worry about? You don't want to be in your dress with your hair and makeup done and sobbing that your DJ had to cancel last minute or something, of that sort. And so really just emphasizing that you don't want to worry about these things. Let me worry about them. Trust me with your big day. I promise everything will not go as planned, but it will be beautiful and you will have a great time if you're not worrying about all these things.
Well, that is so interesting because, again, we experience that nothing goes according to plan on wedding day, right? You always have to kind of catch up and change up and switch up, and then you have all these other vendors to deal with. When you switch one thing, it affects something else. Yeah. And so we set some great information for our couples here just a moment ago in terms of what you would do for them so that they don't have to worry on their day. But your bride is on a budget. You said that going in. Your client is that bride that's on a budget, that's not doing the glam wedding, but still wants, it's still a wedding. And so when they've got to spend for, name the 15 vendors that they have to have, that they can't do this day without, why should they pay you?
Yeah, that is a wonderful question. And they should pay me for my services because, number one, I think the biggest value proposition is managing all of those vendors. And specifically when, like I said, people are running late, when people have questions, you don't want to be bogged down by a million different questions, especially, what time do I do this? Where am I going to be here? How do I set up? Where do I need to be? Do you have this? Do you have that? All these little questions. I think I probably answer at least 100 questions during setup every single wedding, right? And so you don't want to be bogged down by that. You want to be enjoying your time. So the vendor management is big. And then number 2 is the pre-planning, right? And so like we talked about, there's a ton of things that people do not think about. And so something that I include in my services is I make the timeline for you. I take vendor communication off of your hand so that, you don't have to worry about when are people going to be where and what's going on at this time and how is the timeline going to move from this thing to this thing. So I, do a lot of pre-planning in my coordination package. I work with couples starting 2 months out. We have bi-weekly meetings. I send you a ton of documents so that you can just dump all of the information that's in your brain out of it, and I can take over and run with it from there.
Fantastic. So now my bride has decided, yes, I want Kayla, I want transform events. But Kayla is the day of, month of coordinator. Kayla is working with me as a DIY bride. So what is it that I have to do? What am I signing up for? What are those DIY things that I still have on my plate that's not on Kayla's
Yeah, so I would definitely say is you're signing up to not be last minute about things,
plate?
and kind of have someone to guide you. It's like kind of I offer a roadmap in that sense, in terms of we start meeting 2 months before your big day, and in that time I kind of get you down the road leading up to the big day, and so thinking about all those things, we start talking about what are the things that you still have left to do. Let's make a strategy and a plan for how you can accomplish all these things, and you're not staying up till 3 a.m. the night before your wedding still trying to put together centerpieces, or you're not emailing your bridal party saying we need to pick up the flowers at 10 a.m. on the day of the wedding, or all of those little logistics, right, is my job in getting those under control, really. And so having that person, even a lot of times I find too, people just need someone to vent to that's not a friend or family member that they've been venting to this whole time. And so that's what happens at a lot of our planning meetings as well, is brides and grooms spend 15 minutes just venting about all the things that have been going wrong. And so I hear that and I'm like, okay, we can have this little vent session. That's wonderful. I'm glad you got that out. But now I hear the problems that you're experiencing, and let's try to make a plan for how we can mitigate these problems. And sometimes too I have to suggest maybe this is not even worth you spending your time on, your energy on. This sounds like this is creating more problems than it's worth, so why don't we just toss this idea, right? It's not too late to throw things out. It's too late to add things in, for sure, but it's not too late to just make things a little bit simpler on yourself.
Fantastic. So that's what they're responsible for once you get into the picture. Because correct me if I'm wrong, your couples aren't waiting until 2 months before to start planning. They would have done things on their own prior to that. So what are
Right,
some of the
yeah.
things they had to do on their own as a DIY? That what do they still have to do prior to you coming on board?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, sorry if I did not explain the answer the question fully.
It's all good.
So in terms of what they still need to do, so you're absolutely right that they are, doing all the planning, unless they hire me for planning, but most of my couples right now hire me for coordination. So they are handling all the planning up until that 2 month mark, until I step in. In that time though, from that, whenever they hire me to that 2 months, they do have me like on what I call like standby or speed dial, or anything, sort of a quick connection based mechanism like that. And so they can feel free to shoot me an email and say, I'm having, a little bit of difficulty with this person. They can ask me for recommendations. I can send emails for them, if they need help, trying to figure out what time that their makeup needs to be done earlier than that, period. Anything like that, I'm, always available for them after they hire me. So in terms of, to go back to the original question of what do they still need to be done? So typically what they still need to do is finish up any of their DIY decor, get all their wedding party on the same page and communicate that information to them if they haven't already. Communicate, when the rehearsal dinner is happening, what times they need to be and where. And then at the rehearsal, we'll go over all that. And they shouldn't realistically have too much to do outside of that. But like we all know, things don't go as planned, right? So sometimes, people still need to do some small details like getting their wedding day jewelry or their shoes, or filling in a little bit more details about their personal attire, whatever they're wearing. I actually had a couple who 1 month away had not sent their invitations yet. So that was something that one of my couples still needed to do. So really anything could be needing to be done. But realistically, if the planning goes well, you should only need to be filling in a couple minor details in that 2 month period. Pretty much everything should be done. And that's the way that I like to work, is everything is done. So now we can focus on the smaller things, filling in the details, and getting ready for day of.
So do you also help them hire all of their vendors, or would they have hired vendors before they came to you?
So it depends. Some couples they hire me. I think the longest lead time that I've had that a couple hired me is 2 years. And that couple's actually coming up this Saturday. They hired me 2 years ago, so that's been an exciting journey with them. So if they're that far in advance, and they don't have vendors booked, I'm so happy to give recommendations. I love recommending my friends in the industry and people that I've worked with before that I love working with. I would just love the opportunity to work with them again. So I'm so happy to give them recommendations. But typically the people that hire me, they fall in that kind of 6 to 8 months away range. And so they have most of their primary vendors secured at that point. So that would be the venue, the caterer, photographer, videographer, and the DJ a lot of times, and then and usually the florist as well. And then maybe at that point they're still looking for a baker for their cake or a makeup artist. Some couples still are looking for those primary vendors, but a good portion of the couples already have those booked, or at least have people in mind that they're actively in conversation with.
Yeah, yeah. So is that more of the DIY part that they have to go out and find their own vendors and sort of figure out services that they would need from different people, different price points, and typically they would do that outside of your purview in your usual DIY clients,
Right.
right?
Yeah. So it's really, I'm such a fan in my business of you can do whatever you want on your wedding day. Right. And so that's where the DIY piece really comes in, is if you don't want a typical videographer and you want to go with someone that has a little less experience, but that you can save a little bit of money with, then that's what you decide to do. Or if you want to, make your own centerpieces, or even if you're like a wedding that I did back in September, even if you don't want a regular venue and you want to have your wedding in your parents' backyard, right? How can we make those things work? Things like that is really what DIY can encompass everything, to be honest.
Fantastic. Well, this has been wonderful. Before we wrap up, tell the listening audience one thing, two things, three things that you would like them to know about you personally or about Transform Events, just working with you in general. What would you like them to know?
Well, that's a good question. I don't think I was ready for this question. I always feel so awkward when I talk about myself. Um,
No, about
something
yourself.
that Something that I would probably like people to know about me is that I am very an easygoing person, but I'm also very kind of systematic and structured, right? And so during every one of our planning meetings, I'll have an agenda, and I don't mind if we veer off that agenda, but I'm always going to try to like bring us back over to the agenda, or, send you a document of a template of how you can organize your thoughts or whatever you need to get to me. And so working with me is very organized, very detail oriented, and sometimes it might get annoying, but on the times that you need it most, it is going to be very beneficial when, someone's asking about a cake and when is it going to arrive, and I'm like, it's going to be here at 4:32. Something very specific that only a handful of people might know. And so that's something. And then maybe a fun thing, if I had to add one in there as well, is just that I love ice cream, and I love everyone to know that I love ice cream. And even in my consultations, I ask potential couples what is their favorite ice cream flavor, because I like to know other people's flavors as well.
So, what is your favorite ice cream flavor?
Yes, my favorite ice cream flavor is called Chocolate Therapy by Ben and Jerry's. And it has 5 different kinds of chocolate. It's just so amazing. It's good to eat when you're happy or when you're sad or just anything, really.
Well, chocolate solves all problems. Did you know?
It really does.
So, tell me about an exotic ice cream flavor that you might have had, whether you liked it or not.
Hmm. Well, a flavor that I think is exotic, that has been coming up in a few consultations recently, is pistachio. And
Mm.
I'm not really a fan of pistachio personally, but a lot of people seem to have like it. And I just think it's exotic because you would never expect that to be an ice cream flavor. And if it is, you would never expect, it's one of those flavors you walk by in the grocery store and think no one's buying that because it's probably disgusting. But a lot of people actually like it. So
Actually, yes. And pistachio, the thing that I don't like about pistachio ice cream is the green artificial coloring that they put it in
Yeah.
because the nut inside is green. So even if you made pistachio ice cream, it wouldn't come out green. And
Right.
so, that artificial factor on it is what I don't like. But I've had pistachio ice cream since I was a child, outside of the US, of course, but pistachio ice cream was a thing. So,
Wow.
have you had coconut ice cream?
I love coconut ice cream.
And so that is one of our specialties. We haven't done it for a long time, but when we first
Wow.
started, coconut ice cream was the thing that people would come to us for. So I'm going to have to make sure you get some of our coconut ice cream
I
because
definitely would love to try that.
you have not had coconut ice cream until you've had a Caribbean caterer's coconut ice cream.
Wow.
Okay, it's a problem. So we'll have to get there. We'll have you over for an ice cream social. How about that?
I would love that.
Fantastic. Well, Kayla, it has been wonderful talking to you. I love your energy. I love your spirit. I know that's what you bring to your clients. That piece about organization, I don't know how many clients understand how important that is. And
Mhm.
sometimes some people may find it quite anal, but it is super valuable for your wedding day to go smoothly. So thanks for bringing that to the table, bringing that energy to your business, and that you're fresh and new ideas. And so we wish you tons of success, tons of weddings, tons of happy clients. And thank you so much for all your words of wisdom to our brides and grooms today. So
Thank you so
thank
much
you.
for having me.
You are very welcome. Well, folks, this has been Kayla McCoy of Transform Events. Look her up. She's on all the social handles. You can find her anywhere you want to find her on the internet and on all the social media. So please look her up, give her a ring, have a chat with her. Talk to you soon. Bye.